Are we ready?
Waiting for the bar to finish and get to 100%.
Right, good evening everyone. Welcome to the meeting of Wisbech Town Council. I'm kicking off because in the absence of both the chairman and vice chairman of the meeting. On that basis, as we have apologies from both of those councillors, could I have a nomination for a member to preside at this meeting? Councillor Miss Hoy.
Can I nominate Councillor Tibbs, please?
Is there a seconder for that nomination? Councillor Mrs. Warwalk. Any other nominations? In the absence of any other nominations, Councillor Tibbs is duly elected to chair this meeting of Wisbech Town Council. I'll hand over to you, Councillor.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So I welcome you to this meeting of Wisbech Town Council. If a member wishes to speak on any agenda item, he or she should indicate by raising a hand. Voting on a proposal or recommendation should also be indicated in this way. I will now invite you all to confirm your attendance through a roll call. I shall read out in alphabetical order each member's surname and invite him or her to indicate by saying here that he or she is present. Councillor Hill.
Present.
Councillor Miss Hoy.
Present.
Councillor Human.
We have an apology, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Ketteringham.
Not here.
Councillor Lynn. Apologies.
Another apology, Chairman.
Councillor Maul.
Another apology.
Councillor Meekins.
I'm here.
Fantastic. Councillor Oliver.
Here.
Councillor Patrick.
Apology, Chairman.
Councillor Mrs. Pelanova.
Present.
Councillor Prest.
Here.
Councillor Rackley.
Present.
Councillor Tierney.
Present.
Councillor Topgood.
Apology, Chairman.
Councillor Mrs. Warwalk.
Present.
And Councillor Wing.
Present.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Chairman, Councillor Ketteringham is just arriving, just coming to the waiting room.
In which case I'll hold on for a moment. Hello, Councillor Ketteringham. So we move on to agenda item 1, which is to receive members' apologies for absence. I invite the clerk to report any apologies for absence that have already been received from members of the council. I think we've just covered that, really.
Thank you, Chairman. I have just mentioned those as we've gone through, but just in terms of summary, apologies from Councillors Bolsheviks, Human, Lynn, Maul, Patrick and Topgood.
Okay. So we move on to agenda item 2, open forum / public participation, clerk to report. So in normal circumstances, members of the public would have the opportunity to make oral representation to the meeting in public. As this opportunity currently does not exist, members of the public are invited to submit or text their representation in writing to the town clerk prior to the meeting. Any representation received will be read out by the clerk. I now invite the clerk to read out any representations that he has received from members of the public.
Thank you, Chairman. On this occasion, I have received no representations to report to members.
Okay, so we move on to agenda item 3, to receive members' declarations of disclosable pecuniary, non-disclosable pecuniary or non-pecuniary interests in relation to any agenda item. So I invite members to declare any, oh, no, that's the same again. When declaring interests, please state the nature, for example, friendship, and the extent in the case of non-pecuniary of that interest. I do apologise about posting that. Do I have any such declarations? Would be a no. In which case we move on to agenda item 4, Fenland District Council, to receive information in relation to district council activities relevant to Wisbech and to consider a proposal of that council to widen some pathways within Wisbech Park. Details have been circulated previously. I understand that there may be matters to which the clerk wishes to draw members' attention, particularly the specific item mentioned on the agenda. This item also provides the opportunity for those Wisbech Town councillors who are also Fenland councillors to do likewise. Okay, pass over to the clerk.
Thank you very much, Chairman. In terms of general updates in relation to FDC and FDC activities, circulated last week was the usual monthly report on CCTV performance, the Section 106 expenditure update and the environment newsletter, to remind members about that documentation. Also, I'll mention members, I'm sure we'll recall discussing at the last meeting and a previous meeting, the District Council's application to the County Council's Communities Capital Fund for £240,000 towards the construction of a new community building in the park, to which both FDC and the Town Council had committed £10,000 each as match funding. I'm very pleased, and I'm sure that members are, that that bid was approved by the County Council's Communities and Partnerships Committee last week on the 3rd of September. So I think that's certainly good news for the town. Specifically, as has already been mentioned by the chairman, there's the item to consider the widening of some footpaths within Wisbech Park. As has been mentioned, details were circulated to councillors last week showing the proposal, and obviously I can feed back any comments that members may have to Fenland District Council. So back to you, Chairman, in terms of members' consideration of this specific item.
Okay, so do we have any questions, comments or proposals? Councillor Mrs. Woolwark.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to sit there and say about the proposal about widening the pathways in the park. Absolutely behind it. I walk in that park nearly, well, probably about 3 or 4 times a week, and that pavement could really do with some work. So I just want to show my support. Thank you.
Councillor Miss Hoy.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that it is in relation to the running tracks. If you remember, we had the 106 money, and we asked for a running track, and this I think is actually it. So I don't want anyone to kind of think then where is the running track. So basically, the gist of it is obviously Terry contacted Phil Hughes and said, you know, what's kind of happening with that. And he says, I'll read it to you. It just says, as you know, Wisbech Town Council asked to see some improvements in the park for walking and running, as well as play area improvements. Play area improvements will progress when and if funding can be obtained from a third-party funder. In the meantime, we can move forward with pathway enhancements. Can you please share the attached PDF with your members? Best way of viewing it is to use your mouse scroll button, etc., etc. The wine pathways as match surface is already in place, and we would paint it in a clear line with signage to indicate the walking and running route. And as ever, finance may prove an issue. So I think what he's saying is this is going to fit in with what FDC can afford, because obviously there's only, I think it was 20,000 that was set aside. So it's, I guess it's not perhaps the best thing we could hope for, but it's better than nothing for sure.
Okay, do we have any other comments or questions? Clark? No? Councillor Tierney.
Yes, thank you. This isn't about the running track, but about general FDC business. I just wanted to make people aware, if you weren't aware, that I've got another motion going to FDC tomorrow, and it's part of my ongoing attempts to do everything I can to frustrate and slow down any attempt to build an incinerator in Wisbech. And so, you know, as we know, when this finally goes to the Secretary of State, probably next year, both sides will do their best to argue that there is or there should or there shouldn't be an incinerator. And we, of course, will be saying people of the town don't want it, Wisbech doesn't need it or want it, and we shouldn't be here. The incinerator company will attempt to build a case to show that it's a good thing or whatever. They'll try and make their arguments. And I'm concerned that they will attempt to buy land through a third party or directly even try and force the sale of land, which FDC own, to them. And so I've taken a motion to FDC, which is a moratorium against selling land within the vicinity of the incinerator, just for a short period. Now, it's not something I'd normally do, to be honest with you, because I do think that it's quite important to make best use of land we can and to help economic growth. But I think this is the most important issue facing Wisbech at the moment. People are really worried about the incinerator. We really don't want it. And that is why I've taken the motion to council, and hopefully it will go through. I'm just bringing it to your attention so that everybody understands the reason for the motion. Thank
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Tierney.
Council Chairman, could we have a proposer and a seconder? I'm feeling that members wish to support the FDC proposal in terms of the park. Does that find a proposer and a seconder?
Yes, if I could have I think Councillor Mrs. Warwalk is proposing. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Prest. All of those in favour?
That's unanimous, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
In which case we move on to agenda item 5. Cambridgeshire County Council to receive information in relation to County Council activities relevant to Wisbech. I understand that there may be matters to which the clerk wishes to draw members' attention, particularly the specific item mentioned on the agenda. This item also provides the opportunity for Wisbech Town Councillors who are also members of Cambridgeshire County Council to do likewise. In which case I'll pass over to the clerk.
Thank you, Chairman. On this occasion, I have nothing specific to report in terms of the County Council. I think most of the updates which relate to the county will be included through other items. Obviously, as has been said, there is the opportunity for any county councillor who wishes to draw county council issues to the town council if they so wish, Chairman.
Do I have any county councillors wishing to speak? No? Okay, thank you. In which case we move on to agenda item 6. To confirm for signature by the chairman when possible, the minutes of the meeting of Wisbech Town Council held on the 10th of August 2020. These minutes have been circulated and members have had the opportunity to decide whether they are true and a correct record of the last meeting of the council. I am seeking a proposer and a seconder for confirmation of these minutes. I shall make arrangements with the clerk for the signing of the minutes when possible, which would be by the mayor. Thank you. So do I have a proposer at all? Councillor Oliver and a seconder. Councillor Meekins. All of those in favour?
That's carried by a substantial majority, Chairman.
Thank you. So we move on to agenda item 7. Appointment of committees, further to minute 2820, to appoint members to committees for the municipal year of 2020-21 on the basis of the seats allocations agreed at that minute. Currently 6 Conservative councillors and 1 other councillor on each of the committees of the council. At the last meeting of the council, members approved at minute 2820 changes to the allocation of seats on committees. Council is now asked to make the changes to the membership of some of the council's committees in accordance with that decision. 6 Conservatives, 1 other councillor on each of the 7 committees. A revised list of committees has been produced in liaison with the leader of the council and the non-Conservative members of the council. I invite the council to approve the proposed committee memberships. There is a vacancy on each of the Planning and Community Infrastructure Committee and the Community Events and Festivals Committee. These vacancies can be filled this evening if members wish. Okay.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, as you've already said, based on the decision reached at the last meeting in terms of allocation of seats going forward, we have a new list, which in summary, for those members who have not had a chance to study it, on the Asset Management Committee, it means Councillors Hill and Meekins have come off the committee and Councillors Miss Hoy and Oliver have gone on. The vacancy that was on the Planning Community Infrastructure Committee for an independent councillor is now for a Conservative councillor, and there is an independent vacancy on the Community Events and Festivals Committee now that Councillor Tibbs has come off that. As the Chairman has already said, there's the opportunity to fill those 2 vacancies this evening if members wish. If not, we can carry those forward. But obviously, we're looking for a proposer and a seconder if members are happy for the new list of committees, which we will then publish. Thank you, Chairman.
If I could have a proposer. Councillor Phil Wing and a seconder. Councillor Oliver. All of those in favour?
That's unanimous, Chairman.
Thank you.
So we'll approve the list as currently printed and carry those 2 vacancies until such time as members wish to fill those.
Thank you. In which case we move on to agenda item 8. Delegated powers. Further to minutes 2920 to consider the need for continuation of the powers which were delegated to the clerk to be exercised in consultation with the leader of the council and relevant committee chairman. and took effect from the 24th of March 2020. At the 18th of May 2020 meeting of the Council, members decided that the power which has been delegated to the Clerk to be reaffirmed and continued at that time, with further continuance being reviewed at the next Council meeting of Wisbech Town Council at the 6th of July and the 10th of August 2020. It was decided that the delegated powers to be continued but reviewed again at today's meeting. As the power to hold virtual meetings exists, it may be that this delegated power no longer needs to be exercised. However, because of ongoing uncertainties and to provide the Council with the mechanism which allows it to respond quickly to an issue, such as an urgent request for grant funding, it may, on balance, be best for it to remain for the time being, but be reviewed at the next meeting of the Council. I'm seeking a proposer and seconder for this course of action. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Tierney, and a seconder? Councillor Oliver? All of those in favour?
That again is unanimous, Chairman.
Thank you. Oh, we're racing through this today.
Indeed.
So we move on to agenda item 9, Wisbech Town Council Accounts 2019-20, further to minutes 3020, at which the annual governance statement 2019-20 has been approved. Consider the accounting statements, the other part of the annual return 2019-20 for submission to the Council's internal auditor. The Clerk has circulated the relevant section of the annual return document with supporting information. I invite the Clerk to present the accounting statements from which form part of the annual governance and accountability return in relation to the financial year 2019-20. I'll hand over to you, Terry.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Yes, I have circulated accounting statements on the annual governance report, which looks like this. I did send a slightly revised version out earlier today because when we're doing our sort of final checking, we realised that some of the comments that have been made by the external auditor signing off the previous year's accounts, there was a variation in the carry forward figure where we finished that year and start this year, in other words, in box 1 of that document. So a minor change there. With that accounting statements document, I circulated a document which is headed up boxes 3 and 6. So we're required to break down those areas of expenditure and areas of income separate from the precept, separate from staff costs and separate from any loan costs. The loan cost relates to the repayment of the loan from the County Council in terms of Wisbech Castle. We've also produced, and some members will recall at the last meeting, Councillor Moore asking, for example, why the total receipt in the financial year 18-19 was 262,000, but only significantly less in 2019-20. And one of the main reasons was the loan from the County Council. But in the variations document, which is this one, you will see that it explains all of that detail. We're required to show variances of plus or minus 15% based on the previous year, because 15% is considered to be a reasonable variation in terms of annual budgeting. And for example, you can set utility budget, and then it can easily be 10 or 15% over year on year, or 10% under. So that's the information we need to provide for audit purposes to get sign off of the annual governance documentation. The internal auditor is coming into the town hall on the 16th to go through the documentation and anything that supports this to validate our accounts, and will make any comments that she feels fit or necessary. And we will send all this documentation together with her report and also the annual governance statement that's signed at the last meeting of the council off to the external auditors, and then we will await an opinion from those. There's also a point at which we then have to make our documentation available, all the documentation that forms the basis for this documentation, for a right for the public to inspect for a certain number of days over a certain period. I appreciate that probably this is not common territory for councillors in the main, but I'm happy to take any questions. But ultimately, would like members to sign off the documentation on the basis of now proceeding with the next step of the audit, which, as I said, is the internal auditor's visit on Wednesday of next week. Thank you, Chairman.
I'll start off asking for any questions or comments before we move on to ask for a proposer and seconder. Do I have any questions or comments at all? No? In which case, I'm asking for a proposer. Councillor Oliver, and a seconder. Councillor Miss Hoy. All of those in favour?
That would appear to be unanimous, Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, so we move on to agenda item 10, Clerk's report. I invite the Clerk to update members on projects, initiatives, to inform the Council of correspondence and to report minutes of the meetings of committees, etc.
Thank you. I produced, as I have done for the previous couple of meetings that have been dealt with remotely, a relatively detailed report. If, as has been practice in the last couple of meetings, if I do something of a summary and then circulate the detail following the meeting, which will also replicate in the minutes if members are happy, or alternatively, I can read it through word for word, but I'm sure they prefer the former suggestion rather than the latter. I'm seeing some nods, so I'll go on that basis. In terms of delegated decisions, which we've mentioned an agreed continuation of, there's been one delegated decision since the last meeting of the council, and that was to sign up to be one of 3 collaborative partners, the other two, the Marchtown Council and possibly a credit union, to Fenham District Council's bid by the Community Safety Partnership for a fund to fund a project which community's awareness of loan sharks, how they work.
Sorry,
and how they operate.
Terry. Councillor Hill, you might want to mute your thing. We can hear what you're doing in the background, mate. Just mute your.
Yeah, sorry,
No
I
worries.
can't find the mute button. Sorry, I should have switched it off. Oh, there we are, down there.
So this is something that's come through the Community Safety Partnership, and the sign-up was needed to be agreed by the 28th of August. So there again, that was something that was done on delegated powers following consultation with the leader and the chairman of the Policy and Resources Committee. The Acts of Kindness video that we've spoken about previously, that has now been produced and is now on the council's social media. Wisbech Market continues to flourish. We continue to get new traders and we continue to promote the market. And we've got a few initiatives, including a food demonstration in the marketplace coming up on the 19th of September. More events possible and information will follow. The enhancement scheme, I think members are fairly au fait with. There was a meeting of the Marketplace Management Committee on the 17th of August. Members will see from the minutes the progress that's being made. Since that meeting, I've gone back to the design engineer and he's now moving forward with some of the details. He's provided us now with some estimated costs, on the basis of which I'm now this week putting together a further application for this time funding from the combined authority from the Growing Fenland pot to add to our marketplace budget. The pedestrianisation of the marketplace, to give it its nickname, that is now moving forward with the policy and regulations team at the County Council, who commenced a consultation exercise on the 26th of August. That lasts for 6 weeks. The allotments, there again, allotment rates, tenancy rates are higher than we've ever had. Waterleys and Dowgate now both have a waiting list, which is the first time I think that's happened. And there is considerable increase in other tenancies on other sites. We continue with a high level of communications presence on Twitter, Facebook, etc., and our council's website. Community events and festivals, members will be aware that we've had to cancel some so far, Wisbech Day, Wisbech Rock Festival, etc. We're still working on proposals to deliver where possible, subject to COVID-19 guidance. Remembrance Sunday might take a scaled back version on what's happened in previous years, possibly looking to a situation where there are no more than perhaps 30 people, depending on what COVID-19 guidance says at the time, laying wreaths at the War Memorial, no parade, no marching included, and no church service. The Wisbech Christmas Fair steering group is now looking to a different approach, probably rather than a one-day event, possibly a series of activities between the 1st and the 24th of December, something each day across the town. So that's a different approach. A couple of mayor's fundraising activities going on, including a afternoon tea that's coming up very, very soon. We're still having limited contact in terms of the offices. The situation where most people either telephone, email or post seems to be working, and where contractors need to come in, we're making sure that they're operating in a COVID-19 compliant manner. We've got the 2 new notice boards on the front of the town hall, which if members have seen, and I think they look very, very smart. And fortunately, we did not need any consent from the local planning authority. They were happy that they were pretty close to like for like, and we didn't need any consents for that. I've just ordered some minor repairs to the roof over the gents' toilet, because when it rains heavily, water comes in. Obviously, we need to get that cured very quickly. Our telephone system, we're working towards improvements on that, probably with a VoIP system, or very likely to have a VoIP system at relatively low cost. And we have acquired, free of charge, brand new, still in box, 3 VoIP telephones that have been donated to the council by somebody very generous. Castle, as people know, is closed to the public at the moment, but there's considerable amount of work going on, and that is to be applauded. In terms of staffing, next week, myself and Councillor Lynn, as the chairman of the Marketplace Committee, will be interviewing to fill the vacancy for Markets and Allotment Officer post. Also, just to say that from the 1st of April, all local government employees have been awarded a 2.75 pay award from the 1st of April. In the budget process, I'd estimated 2%, but the additional 0.75% works out at less than £1,000 for all staff across the year, and that's easily funded from the savings in the vacant post of Markets and Allotments Officer. I have no particular items of correspondence to draw to members' attention at this time, and obviously I would draw your attention to the minutes of the Planning and Community Infrastructure meeting of the 17th of August, which was followed by the Marketplace Management Committee on the same date. That's a quick summary, but as I say, I will send out the full text to members so that they have more detail which they can refer to if they so wish. Thank you, Chairman.
Great. Thank you very much for that, Terry. In which case, we move on to agenda item 11, which is the date of the next meeting. To agree a date for the next meeting of Wisbech Town Council, I will take proposals from members as to the date and time of the next meeting. Do I have any such proposals?
If I could just help, Chairman, there is
Fantastic, thank you.
there is nothing specific at the moment that's, shall we say, time critical, not requiring a decision by a certain time. My suggestion would be that I probably look to a date in the next, I don't know, perhaps 6 weeks, say, but obviously consult members as to their availability on perhaps 2 or 3 proposed dates. But as at the moment, there's nothing, if you like, queuing up for a decision by a certain date.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for that, Terry. Would I be able to have a proposer for that we can sort out the date by email? Councillor Wing, and it looks like that's seconded by Councillor Tierney. Okay, all of those in favour?
That looks to be unanimous, Chairman.
Fantastic. In which case, I call this meeting of Wisbech Town Council to a close. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Night, everyone.
Thank you.